Hey,
Hello,
how's it going?
it's good. We've got some new beginnings.
Oh my gosh, do we ever?
Yeah.
So what's going on in
Wow.
your neck of the woods?
So this is how I've been conveying it to people. So I recently, left the company I'd been at for 11 and a half years and transitioned into a new role, promotion. Very exciting, but this is what it feels like. It's the feeling of when you left either fifth grade going on to middle school, eighth grade going on to high school, graduating high school and going on to college. It is that first day feeling of, oh my gosh, I was so comfortable. And someone just threw a bucket of water on me, and I am back at square one. And I thought I knew everything. And it turns out I know nothing.
Well, not exactly. You know enough
I do.
to
I
get you to
do.
this place. And so, in the words of the great Marshall Goldsmith, his book titled What Got You Here Won't Get You There, what Marshall would say is, you know enough and it got you to this place. And now you're not starting over, but you're starting a new phase of your journey. And what you have so far is not enough for this new place. So that is discombobulating.
Yeah.
That is like, holy cow, I was doing really well in my previous position, right? You probably, well, knowing what I know about you, you had plateaued. You
Hmm.
could probably have done most of that work in your sleep, right? Or if you're awake with your eyes closed and pretty distracted, you could have done really, really well. And now this new place is saying, what is it saying to you?
Surprise.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it is all of the first day of school anxiety, excitement, um, new it's because I left to go to school, to college where I knew no one. You might have done the exact same thing. I knew no one.
Mhm.
And left Texas to go to California. And I mean, looking back, it was the best decision I ever made, right? But wow, were my insecurities in one hand, and then my excitement and big eyes in the other hand, wanting to learn it all and take it all in, but also terrified of not knowing what I'm doing. So it's been a rush.
Yeah. Yes. Talk about new beginnings. Talk about navigating change. Talk about managing transitions. It's all of that, right? So
Yeah.
I can relate, as you know, but in a different way,
Yeah.
because after 22 years of being in Austin, Texas, we packed up our stuff, hitched our little wagon to whatever. No, we didn't hitch a wagon. We packed up our stuff in a big old truck and sent it off to Miami, and then spent the next couple of days in the house saying, holy crap, this is real. This is, oh my goodness. So as you know, for the couple of months leading up to this, it's been a little topsy-turvy for me. Because while this is exciting and amazing, it's a great sort of a fresh start, and we've been looking forward to this, for me, this was somewhere out in the future. So I expected the change slash transition to happen, but not anytime soon. Well, as life would have it, it happened way sooner than my whole psyche was ready for. We found a house months faster than we thought we would, and then sold our house in Austin in the blink of an eye. I kid you not, in the blink of an eye, with multiple offers, people writing letters. Oh, we
Yeah.
will, we love you back, that sort of thing. And while all of that is happening, I'm having this conversation with myself in the back of my head, like, what is going on here? So I'm packing and I'm doing all the stuff that you ought to do while you're moving. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, this is not really happening. No, 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 no,
Mhm.
no. But then reality came a couple of weeks ago when everything was packed on that truck and sent off. And then we spent probably about a week or so saying bye to friends. And we were fortunate to have created a beautiful community we call family in Austin. And that was hard to leave, Mandy. And I've got to acknowledge that I've been surprised at myself as to how difficult this transition has been. If you'd asked me several months before, oh yeah, change is a part of life. The only constant is change. So da 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 da. I would have known all the right things to say, but in this instance, from an emotional perspective, it's like somebody pulled a rug from under me. And it's caused me to go back to my psychology background and think about what's really happening. And I realized that there are a couple of things happening. One is the change, the physical change of moving out of my house, leaving my beautiful garden and the quiet backyard and my amazing neighbors and friends. That's a physical part of it. And then the second part of it, which we don't spend enough time talking about or even thinking about, is the psychological part, which is where the transition happens. So there's a change, the physical change. You do all the things you need to do to move from one job to another, from one company to another, from one house to another, from one city, one state to another, right? The physical, but then there's a psychological stuff, the stories that are swirling through your head, the emotions that you're experiencing. And what I realized is that I was spending a lot of really valuable time doing all the right things for the change, to manage the change, but I wasn't spending enough time taking care of the emotional, the psychological side of it. And I was feeling like, oh my gosh, I kept hearing myself say, I can't believe this is happening. I can't, no. I'm part of this change that my husband and I are doing, yet I'm constant, I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe this is happening. I'm not on the other side as yet, but I'm in a different place because I've now been working on the psychological part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think I'll tell you about this aha moment I had, which was an incredible feeling. But, everything happened, just like you said, for me, so fast.
Mhm.
You know, you want to make a change, you get an offer, you don't know what's going to happen. And then in almost a second, you have to accept the offer, tell your current company. It's like I had to break up with somebody,
What was
and
that like, Mandy? Mandy, what was that breakup like?
so I am not, I'm not a Zoom. I don't like to have tough conversations over Zoom or over the phone. So I made sure that most of my conversations were in person because that was very important to me. And I am very close to a lot of people from my former company. So honestly, I felt like I was going to throw up. I
Mhm.
mean, I was sick to my stomach. I was nervous. I felt like I was going to throw up telling some of the people I needed to tell. And I was met with so much support that it made it so much easier to feel the support of leadership, to feel the support of the relationships I had built. But I was sick. I was sick to my stomach. I didn't eat for several days. Like I was physically sick. So, but once I did it, and this is what I told a lot of my coworkers as well, I felt like it was almost this instant relief of and I kept feeling over a couple of days like I was laying down one more piece of luggage, one more piece of very heavy, I don't want to say baggage because it's not the baggage that you're thinking of, like all horrible, you're in a horrible relationship. I was in a great relationship. But it was laying down what I knew I had outgrown, what I had become unsatisfied with, unhappy with myself, not again, not my company, but I was laying it all down and I was truly starting fresh.
You were
And
doing the psychological work,
yeah,
the transition piece of the work, right?
yeah, I was. And I would wake up every morning feeling a little bit lighter,
Mhm.
you know, just physically lighter, mentally lighter, emotionally lighter. And, you know, it was because I had been wanting a change for a long time. And I didn't know what it was. You know, I didn't know if I was going to stay and grow at my current company, if I needed to leave and kind of fly and do something different. And so once the decisions were made, that was the true like, ah, like a decision has been made. Now I just prepare. Now I make the decisions I need to make. I make the plans I need to make, and now I prepare. And that was, I'll tell you this, I was driving to work my last couple of days, and you know, it had been very heavy. Everything had been so heavy, heavy on my mind, heavy that I was going to disappoint, heavy to cry, to get emotional. And I was listening to the new Kanye album, and I love it. And it's, you know, it's just been something I love to listen to music, you know, when I'm going through hard, difficult things. And I had this like aha of, I did it.
Yeah.
I actually did it. I did the hard thing. And I mean, that was just an incredible feeling of I did it. I not only made the decision, I did all the things to get to the decision. And I did it. And that felt incredible because I did something I didn't think I was going to do.
So what was that feeling exactly? You said it felt incredible, but what's the emotional label that you put on it?
Strength.
Wow.
I felt
Mhm.
very strong,
Mhm.
that I took control of what I wanted professionally,
Mhm.
and I went after the role I wanted and I got it.
Yeah. Yeah. When I saw your text, I felt a certain amount of joy just wash over my body for you. It's like I wanted to just grab you and hug you and scream because I know how much you've been thinking about wanting to sort of put yourself in a new place for growth. And that it wasn't so much about leaving your former organization, but it was about putting yourself in a new place to stretch and challenge yourself,
Yep.
right? So that your wings could kind of go freer and you could grow. So I can just imagine if I was feeling that way for you, I can just imagine that multiplied by a million, how you must have been feeling physically and emotionally to now have made that decision. And so then you make the decision that, yes, you're accepting the job. You go and you tell all your folks who have supported you, loved you, coached you, and watched you grow, and you want to throw up. You didn't. You shared this. And now you transition to the new place and now you're in the new role and different kinds of feelings, different kind of emotions that you're experiencing. Feel like I'm starting over.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel incredibly vulnerable, insecure, in need of you know, my mom to tell me I'm beautiful and to like, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? It's
Yes.
but I will tell you that has had to come from within.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I've had to really focus on coaching myself and
Mhm.
the self-talk that's going on.
Yeah.
I have had to be on it. I've had to be my mother telling me, you can do it.
Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah.
And that's been um that's helped me feel strong.
Yeah.
You know, just being weak and oscillating between I'm rocking it versus I'm
Yeah.
drowning.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing, Mandy, is that this is so normal. And if we talk about it just from the perspective of a leader who's transitioned to a new role, this is so normal, especially when you transition to the new role in a new organization where not only do you have to learn about your new responsibilities and your team and what your end product is going to be and your team culture, you now have to learn about the culture of the organization and what this organization is all about. You've got to be now embracing the vision and the mission and trying it on and feeling what aspects of the values and the cultural norms that are attached to this might be itching me a little bit or feels a little bit too tight or is unusual or even weird, right?
Yeah.
Because you've got to put this on and you've got to embrace this in order to do great work with your team. So when you first start out, it feels awkward. It's like somebody put you in shoes that are not your right size. They're left foot on the right foot, and you're walking kind of weird. But because you've done this before, you've got what it takes to do it again and do it even better this time. But the first part of it where you are right now is a lot of questioning about, did I even make the right choice? Did they choose the right person for this role? Can I learn this fast enough? Some leaders will even admit that they have imposter syndrome.
Yep.
They made a mistake. I made a mistake. Holy crap.
I also been comparing it to, when you had your first child, you go back and you leave the hospital and you're in the car and you think, what, why did they let me walk out with this?
Yes.
Like, what am I supposed to do now? Yeah. Who said I had permission to take this home? Yes. Yes. What do I do with this now? And that's how I feel. I'm like, what were they thinking? Yeah. They're giving me this baby. I have no idea how to feed it, take care of it. This is a new baby. But, then you think, okay, I've got everything I need to do this, but I also know I'm going to need to learn more. And you figure it out. And that's what I'm doing. I'm figuring it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you have to.
Yeah, there's no choice. I mean, and there was no, my new boss asked me, like, is the honeymoon period over? And I was like, oh, I don't think there was one.
Wow. So you were kind of thrown into the deep end, right?
Yeah. But it was, I think there was no other way to do it.
Yeah. But if we think about the developmental curve or the growth curve for all of us, and right now, let's just think about it again from the perspective of a leader in an organization. You develop competence and capabilities to a certain extent in a job or in a role until you were where you could do that work in your sleep and you feel good about it. So your confidence is high because you know you can do this work you deliver, but then you begin to feel uncomfortable because it's not stretching you anymore. And so when folks find themselves in that place, while they might still be churning out good work, their motivation isn't where it needs to be because it's not challenging them enough. So they might not actually even be doing great work, just good work, even though they could do great work. But now, because you've been doing so well, you are pulled. In this case, you chose to pull yourself from that comfortable place to go seek out something more challenging. So at your last job, you were up here where you had plateaued, but you got there traveling up this curve, right? Because when you first started, you didn't know everything.
No,
you learned a lot over time, developed your competence, increased your confidence until you got to this place where you could pretty much coast. Well, guess what? What growth does to us is you get to this new place, but you're not at a plateau anymore. You're now back down here.
Yeah.
And your vision is to get back to this place where you have developed your competence. You now feel super confident about your work, but that's going to take a tremendous amount of effort. right?
Yeah.
So some of it is going to look like making sure you're talking to a lot of people, asking the right questions, getting familiar with the lay of the land, your team members, your peers, understanding the organization's vision and mission at its core. So you know that whatever you do, whatever work you do is in alignment with that. But all of that's going to take time. And as you're experiencing right now, there are days when you're going to feel like, I can't do this. I don't know how to do this, right? But you have that memory of, but I can learn. I
Yeah.
know how to turn to the right people. And so slowly over time, this slope is, you're going to keep going up to that place where in time, and not anytime very soon, which most of my leaders who are peak folks who are ambitious and they're driven like you, they want to get to this plateau so fast to
I
show that
know.
they deserve to be in this place, right? And so they may have their amazing 60, 30, 60, 90-day plan in place. And there's some who believe that by the time they get to the end of that 90-day period or 120-day period, that they should be feeling the way they were in their previous role. No, no.
That's a very great reminder. Because here I was like, oh, in 90 days, this will be much better. I mean,
It
and it
will
will
be.
be,
It will
but you're
be.
right. You're right.
No, Mandy, it will be. 90 days from now, you'll be in a different place because it's a journey.
Yeah.
But to expect that in 90 days, you're going to be where you were at the height of in your last job, that's setting yourself up for feeling incompetent.
Yeah.
Give yourself the space, the breathing room rather, to build your competence to a higher level, right? And start feeling comfortable in your new place.
So where have you been with the psychological side? Do you feel like you're there? Has it hit you?
Not there, but I'm working it through. So I always share with you how much I love my gardening. And so I had this ritual in my old home in Austin where workout and then go to my garden. And the old house was backed up to the woods. So, in the early mornings, it's me, the birds, and the squirrel. And I loved it. So it was quiet and peaceful. One of the things I knew would be different is that this time we've chosen more of a city life. So we're closer to the city, closer to a main road. And I remember the first morning, I was so excited to get up to see what this beautiful backyard feels like. And I opened the back door and I closed it as fast as I opened it. I go out now, even just now I was out, and the sound doesn't sound that loud, but because I'm so used to the quiet of the backyard, the cars that I heard it sounded like massive noise in my head. And I came in and I was so sad.
Yeah.
I had a bit of a meltdown that day. And I said to Peter, we made a mistake. We made a mistake. I said to him, I don't know if we can do this. I don't know if we can live with, and thank God he's an amazing fella that he kind of listened to me and said, yeah, it's noise more than we're used to, but we're going to do some stuff with the water features and stuff to, and then I was talking to a friend who reminded me that, your mind is such a powerful thing that over time, what sounds like noise to me right now, I won't even notice. So I'm looking forward to that. So it's having these conversations with myself and with others about embracing the change. We know change is constant. And Peter and I are on this new amazing journey. And part of this journey brings some stuff that's different and new. And some of the stuff that's different, they're going to rub you the wrong way initially, but I've settled in my mind that I can find ways to work around them while I'm embracing a lot of the positive stuff. So when I look at my beautiful fruit trees, when I look at all the avocados I pick up in the mornings, I'm like, yeah, we have to weigh the costs and the benefits of things. And I'm not fully there as yet, but I feel myself being on this journey. So that makes me feel good about it, that I'm
Yeah.
in the transition. The transition has not happened. And I'd be fooling myself if I expected the psychological transition to just go, yep, we left here, we're here now, and I'm good. No, no. But it's happening, and I'm grateful to be feeling that.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say, and I know that we'll get to some points of what we want people to take away, but what you just mentioned, I don't think any change like this is possible
Mhm.
without the support of others.
Yes.
And I noticed as well, just as you mentioned, I've been talking to my friends, I've been talking to people, and I, I had to lean on a lot of people. And just
Mhm.
for,
Yeah.
just for
Yeah.
advice,
Yeah.
for a pick me up, for, you know, I, my husband was incredible and said, I will support whatever you
Yeah.
choose to do. And
Yeah.
he, and it was,
Mhm.
that is crucial in any sort of decision or change, or navigating from one place to another. And just as
Mhm.
when you climbed a mountain,
Mhm.
it's the support of other people is crucial.
Critical, critical. I agree. One of the things that helped me disengage from our Austin home, my sister said to me, "You guys have had such an amazing time in this house with friends and family. Go through a ritual of saying goodbye to all the rooms and the different spots in your house and in your." And I went up, and the first thing I did, I actually did after that conversation with her, is I went to have a conversation with my garden and thanked my garden area for the tremendous amount of joy it has brought me over the last 11 years we've been in that house. I remember in the mornings being just so excited to go up and see my veggies, see my fruit trees and stuff. So I just went and just celebrated that and be grateful that I was afforded that privilege, that opportunity to plant and grow stuff and enjoy it and have friends enjoy it. So realizing that things begin and things end, that's just part of life. And we're fortunate and blessed to have endings and to have beginnings. So just getting my head fully in that space, because I know all of this intellectually, but my heart wasn't connecting. And maybe because I wasn't ready as yet, I needed to mourn a bit. And so when I was ready, being in that place of gratitude was something that actually helped me start the psychological phase of transitioning. Just being thankful to the house and the yard
Yeah.
and the trees.
Yeah. No, and that's true. I think, I had a goodbye happy hour at my former job. And
Mhm.
that's so needed.
Yeah.
I needed to say goodbye. I needed to give
Yes.
hugs. I needed
Yes.
to write
Yes.
letters and get presents and say thank you. And this is what you've meant to me. And
Yes.
this is what I'm taking with me. And this isn't goodbye. This is see you
Yes.
later. And that was really, really important to do as well. And I'm
Yeah. For
glad that
us
we're in
too.
a place right now where we were, get together outside safely with everybody,
Yeah.
because I had to do it in person.
Yeah. For us too, that was incredibly important. Having dinner out with special friends, and we're able to go to some beautiful places in Austin outdoors, and do that with different couples who are dear friends of ours, and then having folks come over to say their thank yous. That was incredibly supportive, and it made us see what a special life we've had in Austin, and reminded us that we created that and that we're about to recreate that. And then what that also did for me, it brought me to a place of recognizing the values that are guiding us on this new leg of our journey. Because we left Austin not just because we wanted to be in a different place and live in a different environment. We are on a mission for our project in Jamaica, as you know. And so just reflecting on why we're doing this, and the people, especially the children in high schools, who are going to be impacted by the work we'll do in Jamaica, that always overshadows what I've been saying to myself as the selfish side of it, where it's like, oh, I just want to stay comfortable in Austin. I'm like, yeah, we've done that. And now we're in a different phase of our lives where it's more about young people who we want to support than it is about our personal needs. No, don't get me wrong. A lot of our personal needs are being met with this move, this beautiful place that we're in, but it's allowed us to be where we need to be for this other phase of our lives. So recognizing and connecting with the values behind the transition. When I think of you and all the conversations we've had around where you were in your work and where you need to be, there are values driving you to make that decision. Ambition, right? What else was driving you with this?
So I remember writing it down because you told me, because you told me to. I remember writing, what are my values, and I sat down and identified what they were. And, the first one was it was mission focused. I wanted to be somewhere with a strong mission, a very strong vision. And I had that at my former company, but I wanted something different. I knew I wanted to learn something different. The other was financial. I had, I support my family. So I knew I couldn't go backwards. And I don't think, women talk about it enough, but I couldn't go backwards financially. I had to go forwards, and that's okay.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I also knew that I wanted to grow. And that was a key, and that's what I'm hearing as well, interviewing people, and is people want to go somewhere where they can grow, and that's harder for smaller companies because it is a little harder to grow at a 50-person company, at a 30-person company. So I knew I wanted to set myself up for growth. And those things stayed with me in every application I filled out, in every opportunity I looked at. And it's the reason why I'm where I'm at, is those three things needed to be aligned. And they were, and, putting those values to paper, and holding to them is very empowering.
Yeah.
And not sacrifice, well, I got 2 out of 3. Well, I got 1 out of 3, but knowing exactly what I wanted and needed for me and my family, and live and sticking to that, just like what you just said. You know where you're at this point in your life, and what you guys need to get the work done that you want to get done. So identifying that. And something else that I'm seeing and that I hold as valuable is feeling a connection to the work that I'm doing. And that goes back to the mission and the vision of where you're working, and especially in a remote environment, and identifying what that connection looks like to me, because it's different for everybody. And I was able to find, okay, this is what it looks like, and this is what I want it to look like.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Yeah.
Granted, I'm making it sound very rosy, but I'm also getting comfortable with those feelings of vulnerability, insecurity, making mistakes. I made a ton of mistakes.
Good for you.
My first
I know that
couple
sounds
weeks.
weird, but good for you.
Yeah, and I needed to, I needed to.
Miss Perfectionist is making.
Oh, I know.
Remember Miss Frizzle from the Magic School?
Yes.
Get messy, make mistakes. I love Miss Frizzle. Yeah. Yes. And Miss Frizzle, there was wisdom behind those words, because you're going to see, and I'm sure you're experiencing some of that already, the amazing learning that you're gaining from the mistakes that you're making. Right? Yeah. And these mistakes, they come with change. If we're going to leave anything with our listeners today, I'd say, number one, change is constant. It's certain. It's going to be, we all know this, a part of our lives. So we've got a responsibility to ourselves and to the people around us that we serve, or family or coworkers or peers, to accept change with grace. I'll be the first to admit that this big change for us, the first couple of months, I was anything but graceful. I wasn't ready for it. And so I was not graceful at all. I complained so much to my husband, I embarrassed myself. Like, I'd hear myself and I'm like, who's that girl? Who is that girl? I'm like, oh my gosh. And Peter he's been so good through, there are moments when he slipped up, but he made up for that. He's been generally so good through this, giving me the space to whine and to mess up in that way. But here's the deal, Mandy. What brought me around from that place of whining and not being graceful as I responded to the change was really going back to what's guiding us, what's pulling us. So this is where I had to go back to my values. What is this about? What's the mission that we're on? And so when I find myself losing focus or losing ground, going back to the values, it gets me back to a place of focus and stability. And I say, okay, all right. So I'll have to adjust in this way to accommodate some of the things that feels weird about this change.
Well, and I would ask our listeners to do that, if you haven't already. And people listening might be going through or wanting to make changes. There's a lot of people making changes in the workforce. It could be anything, but to identify and write it down what your values are.
Yes.
Write it down. And is anything out of sync?
Yeah. Yeah, that you may have to clarify, your values, right? Which is something we all need to do from time to time. Now, Mandy, I see us having this as a series of conversations around navigating change and transformation and all that, because you're so well familiar right now with the great resignation that's taking place. And it's not just in America, it's all over. So all of us are going through massive changes. If we're not going through our own personal change, folks around us are going through change. And so I'm looking forward to continuing this conversation with you about different aspects of navigating change. So one of many conversations.
Yeah. And the one thing I wanted to close with is I was listening to a podcast. Glennon Doyle has a podcast, and she's doing a lot around, the idea of we can do hard things. And that's something that's really resonated with me, is I can do hard things.
Yes.
And I did do a hard thing.
Yes.
And I'm still doing that hard thing, but it happened, and that's the biggest part of it, is it happened.
Well, that's the title of our podcast.
Yeah.
Living beyond your limits.
Yeah.
The limits are hard things, but we know we can push beyond those hard things. So the conversations that you and I are having on a regular basis through this podcast is to say to folks, what's the hard thing that you are going through? What's the limiting thing, or the thing that feels as if it could limit you or stop you in your tracks? Let's talk about it, because there's a way around it, over it, under it, through it, and we'll figure it out, because that's what you and I are doing.
Yeah.
I feel like high-fiving you.
High five. Virtual high five.
Virtual high five. Awesome. Awesome. Okay, Mandy, wrap this up for us.
Okay. Thank you all for listening. We are so excited to be talking again. It had been a little bit for both of us as we are navigating huge changes ourselves. You can find us where you listen to your podcast, and don't forget to hit subscribe, and we will talk to you again soon.
Bye for now.